Hi, it's Gab and Dad.
Gab Dad.
The famous ones and onlys.
That's right.
Ones and onlys. And we're reviewing A Dangerous Method. Cronenberg directed, Viggo Mortensen as Freud, Michael Fassbender as Carl Jung. These are true.
Keira Knightley is...
Keira Knightley is a hysterical, repressed patient. And
who becomes a doctor, as most of them do.
They're obviously Freud and Jung are famous psychoanalysts from the past, very learned.
This, by the way, is
groundbreaking in their field.
This is a book.
These are books, by the way.
The latest technological marvel. The latest technological...
All right, I gotta write that.
Yeah.
So they break through, obviously, in the field of psychoanalysis. This is the early 1900s. We'll take it away. What's it about, the story?
Well, what's it about? Not so easy to answer that question. To some extent, it's about the early stages of psychoanalysis as a method. To some extent,
accepted at that point, but maybe doubted.
Well,
still.
not accepted all that much at that point, but certainly a developing and powerful movement.
We're talking about shrinks. Well, I mean, psychoanalysis.
Well, can I finish saying what it's about?
Sure.
Thank you. She always interrupts me. Our regular viewers will have noticed that.
And they love it.
You asked me what it's about. It's about the early stages of psychoanalysis as a medical specialty. It's about the relationship between the two leaders of psychoanalysis at that time, Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung, and the breach between them. And it's also about, to some extent, or actually quite a considerable extent, about the private life of Carl Jung and how he has an affair. He's married with children, but has an affair with one of his early, I think his first actually, talking cure patient. So it's about a lot of things going on, and one of the problems I have with the film is it's never quite clear actually what it's about.
Yes, I mean it's fine and great for stories, for movies to have numerous levels to their stories about, being about many different things. But in this case, I agree with you. It was a weakness that it didn't have a strong direction or point to be made either about the field of psychoanalysis. And what I was just trying to say when I was rudely interrupting you was, I mean,
who? I mean,
our family is used to going to, like, have been to analysts and shrinks, but for the general population, just to clarify that psychoanalysis didn't always exist. It was born by Freud, lying on a couch with a shrink is basically what we're talking about. And specifically, if Freud thought a lot of people's problems had to do with
repressed
sex.
Sexuality.
And he was also the one
Not a lot of it, all
everything. And he was big into interpreting dreams. And that's where all that stuff came from. I think that's an interesting point to make, because a lot of our younger viewers may not even, they just think this stuff always existed. So this is where it all came about. And that's very interesting stuff.
Well, I mean, my general criticism of this film, I must say I was disappointed by this film.
Yeah.
My general criticism of this film would be something like this. It took an extremely interesting set of ideas and two extremely interesting people, Freud and Jung, and made it all rather dull.
A little bit dull. I said to you, too much talk, not enough action.
Well, I'm not sure I agree with that.
It was very talky,
okay.
And the only talky parts that I was quite drawn into were the scenes, and there weren't really too many of actual Jung and Freud being in the same room together. They exchanged lots of letters, there's lots of voiceover, but when they were together, I really liked Viggo Mortensen as Freud. I know you weren't particularly
it's all right.
taken. I found it quite a magnetic performance. I really believed him as Freud. Not that I knew Freud, but and so I liked the performances, and when they were getting at it together, I liked
discussing their ideas. Yeah,
I found that that was the best that this film had to offer.
The film never seemed quite clear what it was about. Was it about ideas? Was it about relationships? What exactly was it?
I think it was.
And you made a good point as we left. You said that there were some very important things that happened that were never really explained. For example, Keira Knightley goes from being this hysterical, crazy,
very hysterical,
patient, to being a student in medical school, and it's never quite clear, like...
And Jung cured her, but we didn't get to see that.
Yeah, they talk about how Jung cured her, but how did he do that? I mean,
and I think that's
explained.
A pretty big flaw in a film that sort of relies on...
It's about the
the
dangerous method.
Cure, exactly, which is talking things through. And it never even showed you this key part of both the personal and the professional
story. And another thing is, I mean, the Freud-Jung split, which is a famous split, and it was, you know, in some ways quite important in this film. It's never really explained why they had the split,
Right.
like what the source of the disagreement was.
I mean, this was a bromance.
Was it personal and what happened? You know?
Yeah, and why?
And why?
So there's lots of loose ends in that respect, and you could say that's good that we wanted more, we wanted questions answered, but it's not good that it didn't.
Also, I have to say, Gabrielle,
Yes.
I know you like Michael Fassbender a lot.
Yes.
But I have to say, he was poor in this film.
I don't think he was poor.
He was poor. At one point in the film, I let it go and I said, Monty Python. Now, many of our viewers may not know much about Monty Python, but there were some really Monty Python-esque moments in this.
But that's not Michael Fassbender's fault.
Oh, well, I don't know whether he was badly directed by Cronenberg or what it was.
But I think the point is mentioning Fassbender, we've got Mortensen, we've got Cronenberg. This is a pretty hearty dish of talent.
For sure. Look at Eastern Promises.
And look at Eastern Promises. Michael Fassbender's not in that. But yeah, I mean, come on. Cronenberg could have done something so much more interesting. There was nothing edgy about this. It was actually quite conventional. It was very Merchant Ivory, which
it was like a costume drama, like Downton Abbey, but with some crazy people in the Abbey, you know.
There's always crazy people in the Abbey, but no, it's almost like something you had to watch for your university for your philosophy class, where where you have to read books. I'd rather read a book. You know?
The best scene, in that film, in my opinion, was the opening scene when they're bringing. Sorry, that thing. Just ignore that.
It's his iPhone. He's obsessed with words with friends. Alec Baldwin, if you're watching.
Yeah, that's right. Was the scene right at the beginning when Keira Knightley is being transported to the asylum,
but she's
screaming.
Acting so crazy. I don't know if I bought. I mean, she's supposed to be a crazy person.
It was a dramatic scene.
But I don't know about Keira Knightley's performance. I'm not so sold on it. Anyway, I think we're sounding quite negative. I'm giving this a B.
That's because I'm negative.
Well, we are negative, but I'm giving this a B, so that would be a 3.5 Gabs out of 5. Because there was nothing bad about it. I was just disappointed. It could have been so much more interesting.
I can probably chin myself up to 3.5.
Speaking of Keira Knightley, chin yourself up there.
She has a big
She's
chin.
got a huge chin, jaw.
And very distinct jawline.
Very distinct is the word. I prefer Michael Fassbender's jawline. But I'll take it in a different movie. He's in Haywire. We're going to be reviewing Haywire in a few days. I think Haywire is going to be more our thing.
Is that the sequel?
More action, less talk.
But is Haywire the sequel to the
Dangerous Method? It's a whole other.
After the Dangerous Method, the patients go Haywire.
Exactly.
Anyway, there you have it. I wouldn't rush out to see this.
I don't think they're going to anyway. Hopefully you're seeing this.
Maybe a rental. I mean, it doesn't really need the big screen.
Let's put it this way.
Watch it on an airplane. If you're on an airplane, watch it on an airplane.
If I had rented this, I would have probably laid down on my couch and fallen asleep.
Yeah, that's a review.
There you go.
There you go. Goodbye, folks.